if some resonate. But I don't really have any long form content there for people to go to. So I think they're probably checking my profile and they don't know much about me. So I should start putting something on there, I guess.
You know what? It comes back to something that a couple artists that I'm friends with say, like, the important thing is always to have catalog. So if someone becomes your friend or someone becomes a fan of your stuff, they have a rabbit hole to go dive down and like build a deeper relationship pretty quickly. The worst thing is when you go viral for something, people expect that, then they go see your page and nothing's there. And it's like, oh, well, that's not the same stuff. And so then they'll leave and they won't consider you again. It's the same thing with artists. Like there's a big issue with artists popping off on TikTok, everyone knowing that song, only going for that 15-second for that song, but there's nothing else for them to really consume. And so then they become this one-hit wonder. People don't even know their name, and they move on to the next thing. So yeah, it's easy to say focus on long form because it's tough. Like you got to put a lot more effort into it. But if you can find slowly a cadence that works, even if it's like once a month, and you have these videos that people can consume and go deeper with you on, I think it could be really cool for community. How many people here, and you can just jump in the chat if you want without jumping on your mic, how many people here do long form and short form? I wonder if I can do a poll. Polls. Oh, I can. Yeah, Rachel, go ahead. Oh, I think you're just raising your hand being like you do both. Okay. Okay, Ava does both. Vincent does both. I think Rachel, you raised your hand, meaning you do both. Cool. I'm guessing everyone else either can't participate or maybe doesn't. Yeah, I think it's it comes back to the mindset of, as a creator, it's so easy to just post content now. And not that you should be in competition with other people in your space. Shaylin, okay, cool. But the idea of oh, you're all good. Okay, sick. Yeah, okay. So it's cool to see that there's like a bunch of people here that are doing both. But I think the idea is wherever there's friction, you're going to get a lot of people dropping off because it's not as easy as just like you actually have to put in work to get somewhere, which is why it was harder to actually build a career and want to build a career as a YouTuber 10 years ago when there wasn't that short form, because you had to put in a lot of effort to post, let's call it even a 5 to 10 minute video, and there was a chance it flopped. And so you kind of had to have this mentality of, okay, shit, I'm going to go back, figure out what works and slowly build, versus just this, I can post one and I can reach 1 million. And so if you can get over that mindset and slowly build and get past that friction where a lot of people, it'll stop them and they'll be like, it's too much work, and they'll jump to something else that's easier, you can really stand out and actually build such good longevity on these platforms. Now, the content has to be good, but it's something that I've been hearing YouTube talk a lot about recently, and a lot of creators that are looking at being a creator for the long term. Like, how do you balance both? Okay, if no one else has anything on the topic, what are the next questions here? Courtney, who's not here, asked how to land paid deals. I'm guessing she means like paid brand deals, or maybe hashtag paid deals. And I see a bunch of these questions, like, how can I get more paid deals instead of gifted? Oh, that's a good topic. That's specific. How can I get more creator content, more deals using hashtag paid? Okay. How do I go about this to break this up properly? Let's start here. Let me break down hashtag paid for everyone so that there is just a clear understanding of like how we work on the back end, what it looks like, so that there's no mystery around how we work. The majority of the brands that we work with right now we really operate as an influencer marketing agency. We'll have these big brands, the Samsungs of the world, whatever, come to us with a budget, say, come up with the strategy, and then help us find the right creators, manage those creators, measure the whole campaign, etc. What ends up happening is we have a network right now of, I think the number is 25,000 active creators. We have a network of 60,000 creators, but 25,000 check in every week to see, did they get a deal, or at least log into the platform. It's up to us as a company to put forth creators that align with what the brand is looking for. So the hardest thing, as someone that works at this company and that wants to help all creators get deals, is it's not so much dependent on us. It's very much dependent on the brand. So if the brand's looking for X number of creators in X field, like let's say, here's an example, a brand's looking for travel creators and they only have a budget of $20,000, but they want 25 creators. Well, then we're not going to surface, if you're a creator that charges $10,000 a post, $8,000 a post, and they want to work with 25, we probably won't surface you to the brand because it doesn't make sense with their budget, is how we think of it. Unless the brand, sometimes the brand will say, we want some macro, we want some micro. Then yeah, we'll surface some that have larger price tags and then some that are much smaller price tags. So I say this all because we're kind of at the mercy of the brands that we work with and what they look for. Now, once that hits, we then go into our network and we find the most relevant creators that we see in our network. I'll give you some insight. Here's like a couple things that the algorithm we use and some of our team inside looks for. One, we look for, it's keywords. So if in your Instagram bio, let's say you're a travel and fashion creator, but you have a pretty cryptic description, like lover of life, fan of music, here's my links. There's probably a decent chance we won't find your profile and the algorithm won't really find your profile if we're going through. Realize that not only hashtag paid, but so many of these platforms that compete with us that you guys might be part of use the Instagram and the TikTok bio and the YouTube bio or whatever these bios are of the platforms they work with as a really good indicator of at least finding the people. So I would always think of your bio as the best way to identify who you are. Good tangible example. I have a good friend, who's a creator. His name's Noah Jennings. He's on TikTok. He's on IG, and he just changed. I was talking to him about this. He just changed his IG caption from. It said something about he's a graphic designer and helps brands build their logos, and it said something about like helping you build logos or brands or whatever that is. He changed it to like 3 lines of exactly what he does. He's like helping teams better their creative, helping teams design better brands and better logos. No joke, he had 400 people organically trickle in and come follow him over the next 4 days, purely because people are using it as a search engine. So one thing to really keep in mind. Now, more tactfully, I think is the right word there, engagement rate's important to brands. And so the brands we see that we work with, it's usually engagement rate over 1.75% on IG. And then on TikTok, it's usually like right now brands are looking at your average TikTok views in relationship to your number of following. So for sure, Vincent, happy to share the reminder. So right now, let's say you're averaging 10,000 views per video that you post on TikTok, but you have a following of 500,000 and your price is, I don't know, $7,000, $6,000 a video. Brands aren't going to take kindly to that number because they're like, oh, well, performance doesn't really match what you think, let's say like the influence is based off of followers. So rule of thumb, and it keeps changing, but rule of thumb is usually like hopefully at least 10% of your followers actually view your content on average. So we'll look for around 10%. Anything above 15, 20 is amazing, is like unbelievable. And brands will really put that on a pedestal. That's engagement rate. Another thing we'll look for, just thinking through this, what were the other 2 things I wanted to tell you guys? Sometimes what happens is a brand will say, cool, we want to work with these types of creators. Here's our budget, but we want them in this region. And sometimes what they're really just using you to get to the audience a lot of the time. And so if it's a Canadian company and they're like, we want to focus on Canada, and you're an amazing creator in Canada who fits the bio, but you only have a Canadian audience of like 10% relative to everything else, maybe a 70, 80% US audience, the brand's not going to see that as valuable to really work with you because they really just want to focus on the region. So realize that sometimes you're not getting selected, not because you're not a great creator, not because you don't have great content, but just because of the specs of what the brand is looking for. The last thing I'm going to say is this. Actually, no, I'll go 2 more things that should be helpful. One, and I think we spoke about this maybe last week, Sarah, maybe the week before, is the pitch. Through hashtag paid, when you get selected, we call it a hand raise. You then get to pitch through words like why you, more than just your numbers, like why would you be a good fit? And the mistake a lot of creators make is this. They will put why they want to work with the brand first. And the hard truth is the brand doesn't care. Like if you're like, oh, I've been sipping on Starbucks for every morning for the past 2 years, and I love this, and I love this brew, and I love this mix, and I'd love to work. I've got great ideas. The truth is, they want to work with you a lot of the time because of your audience. And so if you're not telling them why your audience is going to relate to your content with that brand, or why your audience loves coffee content, or you've talked about coffee with them before and you show them examples, they won't really care, which sucks. But so the best way to go about the pitch, and this is really, I think, for any type of pitch, is go audience first, who you are briefly. Hey, I'm a creator that wears a Red Sox jersey, lives in Toronto, loves talking about this, passionate about, I don't know, doing my laundry, whatever. Then it's the audience. Like, I think that I would be a great fit for this campaign because I'm always getting coffee in the morning. People are always asking me for my recommendations. I've got friends that we have a relationship off of coffee and drinks in a morning routine, and this would fit in so nicely. And then here's some examples of videos I've done in the past that I think could apply to what we can do together in the future. So you give them a visual, and then you can talk about like PS. Like, I love you guys. I've been using you guys for a while. You're in my content, and so my audience is like quite warm to your brand. Do it that way. Go audience first. Why the audience is going to respond to you working with that brand, and then talk about everything else. The last thing I'm going to say is this, and I'll share my screen. There was another question that came in about, like, can we proactively pitch through #paid? And you actually can. Not for everything, but you actually can. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. So we have, the majority of it is reactive. Like, we see it all and then we pitch you guys. We send you an email or we send you a notification to the platform. What we do have, though, is something called our job board or our collaboration board. The reason we have this is twofold. One, to allow you to start to surface yourself to us. So if we don't, for example, maybe we're not picking you up because of different indicators, but you're like, no, this is who I am. This is what I care for. This is why I'd be a good fit. This is who my audience is. Like, I want you to really consider me beyond just my metrics. This is a really good way of doing so. Plus, it's also a good way of being proactive with it. So for example, what'll happen here is you'll see a bunch of collaborations that we're working on right now. And it'll show the country in terms of like where they are and kind of what they want. And then you can just jump in to talk about stuff. Sometimes we'll also run just a survey. We'll be like, hey, we have a lot of clients right now thinking of working with creators that talk political issues or are politically strong in their stance. Are you one? Tell us about yourself so that we can put you into that bucket. So as these brands come through, we can have you top of mind. But I'll give you an example of this stuff. Okay, Goodpatch, for example. You click see more. And here's the description of what they're looking for, kind of the idea behind it, their objective. They'll then talk about the unique requirements, like who they're looking for. You have to be in the US, female, within this age range, X number of followers. And then it might give you some other details here. If you fit the description and you're like, cool, I want to work with this brand and I fit the description, you click apply here. It'll take you to a type form and you fill out a couple of questions and that'll go to our team, and now you're surfaced to our team. The one thing I kind of want to discourage you from doing, and I know a lot of creators want deals and so they'll just throw their name in front of everything. If you don't meet the requirements, it might actually turn our team off. Because if you're just throwing yourself and you're like, you don't meet what the brand wants, but you're still throwing yourself in front, it doesn't help our team. I know you're trying to get in front of our team, but there are better ways to do so. So again, collaboration board, collaborations.paid.com. I'll put this in the chat if everyone wants to save this. And we update this like once, I think it's like once every 7 to 10 days, probably. Sometimes, again, there's a lot of stuff. Sometimes there's some surveys, hemorrhoids and laxative treatments, getting engaged or married. So again, a good way to be active on this. I'm going to stop there because I know the other part of the question was like, how do I go from gifting to paid, or how do I just get more deals in general? Are there any questions or any thoughts that pop up from this, or you want to know more about? I have a brand that feels great fitness with my region. I'm waiting on the response and I've responded again. Is it? Okay, so what Rachel is talking about, and no, Rachel, it's not a bad move. Once you feel like you're a good fit, and actually, you know what? Let me confirm this. When you say chat, you mean chat on our website or chat within within the platform, within the campaign? within the campaign. Cool. No, it definitely works. The truth is, what ends up happening a lot is our campaign managers are on like a bunch of different campaigns, and so sometimes either they won't see it or they might get to it a little later. But you're waiting on a response. Okay, what I would do there is, since like we reached out to you and said, hey, we think you'd be a good fit, and now you have additional questions, I would reach out to this email. So help@hashtagpaid.com goes directly to our creator campaign team. So if you're ever in a campaign or applying for a campaign and such, and there's issues or you have questions, help@hashtagpaid is the right email. In general, as a creator on our platform, and you have issues or you have questions, I would send them to support at #paid. That's just our more general support team that outside of the campaigns can help you. So that's just a little more nuanced. But no, Rachel, definitely not a bad thing to keep following up in the chat. I think, again, like building a relationship with anyone, it's always important to follow up. So I like that. And then, sorry, I don't know your actual name, but I see is it mutual? You said you usually get chosen in top 50, but can't get further than this to land a deal successfully. Any tips? Okay, can you, and this is only if you want to, can you share, or what I can do is I can go into our system and look at one of your pitches, and I can bring it up here and we can talk through it. But I don't want to do it without your permission, and I don't want you to feel awkward or it might be too vulnerable for you. So if that's the case, no stress. Or if you have a pitch like written up that you've done to a brand, then throw it in the chat and we can work through it. Okay, let me go into the #paid system. One sec. Cool. And I think this will be super hub. Okay. Can you send me the webinar? Yeah, I definitely can send it to you after. And do you go, is your handle, is it mutual, like all one word? Cool. Okay, sweet. Oh, what's up, Courtney? Now I know your name. Okay, let me bring something up. Let's go with, what is a good platform? Okay, let's go with this one. Okay, cool. I'm going to, how do I close the chat? Because I don't want people to see that. You know what, here, I'm just going to screenshot this and I'll bring this up. Okay. Okay, so let me do this right now. And then I hope I'm saying your name, Jenko. I'll get to that right after. Okay, here is the screenshot. Let's see if I can zoom in on this. Okay, so BuzzFeed, this was for a campaign for BuzzFeed and Corona Tropical. And here's what it says at the bottom. So whenever you get selected top 50, it'll give you some details on what they're looking for, who they are, what their objective is. For example, so BuzzFeed is heading to an event in Toronto, May 26th, to cover an exciting new launch of Corona Tropical. Upon opting in, please provide us in the chat. Okay, so this is like they're asking for a bundled rate. So, but here's what's going to happen. So you'll participate in a day of the downtown shoot. You're going to assume all costs for travel. You'll be the host of some video content during the day. They're going to generate 5 to 10 videos. They're saying they own the content that's created. And then you're going to share just one video on your Instagram. Okay, so there's like a bunch of things there. Now, what you can pick up from that is a couple things. They say like your responsibility during the shoot will be to be a host of the video content. So what that means essentially is they want you to be a personality. They're looking for someone that in their content has a personality, can speak to camera, can take people along, can take people through a journey. So that would be really important to highlight in your content. And then, is there anything else here outside of it being like Corona Tropical, like whatever Corona Tropical is? I'm guessing that's a beer or maybe something or some type of drink. Like why that drink would be relevant to your audience. So your message was, "What's up? I'm Courtney." Cool. So you talked about who you are. And then you gave some color, like 26-year-old, also working part-time, Like you can do that, but the truth is, like, is that going to relate to the, and I'm getting very tactical here, but like, is that going to relate to the campaign or will that relate to the brand? Unless it has something to do with, oh, we're looking for part-time creators or we're looking for creators that are balancing life and creators. It might just be like extra fluff that you don't even need because you've already talked about who you are. Like I liked how you said you blog family, friends, and then you noticed. And so now you talk about fitness, fashion, beauty, which is great. And then you said, I know I'd be a great fit because your blog showcases fun, exciting place to eat from the business. Corona's new launch, Corona Tropical, exciting. And I'm familiar because you've worked with Red Bull years ago and had similar requirements. I'm going to be sure to showcase the event in a fun way. Thank you for taking the time to consider for the campaign. So a couple things from this. One, you talk about what you do on the blog, which is good. Like here, your focus is this. You're always talking about these events. What you're not telling the brand is you're not telling them like why the audience is going to respond and or why you've done something similar in the past and like that, or the audience will always take to this. Or examples of, for example, when I post an event, I see a lot of people come through. I actually have a stat, 32% of people click through on my link, for example. Or here, like the type of comments that I get are, wow, I didn't know this was up. Thank you for sending me to this. Hey, this was so much fun with my friends, for example, just to show the brand. Because at the end of the day, they don't just want content out of it. Like they want to convert, they want to touch other people's hearts, and they want to do so in a way where, again, you guys are the best option because you're creators and you have that relationship. So again, I'd go audience first, along with why you do what you do, which was great. And then at the end, you said you've worked with Red Bull, Corona Tropical. What I would do here is you don't need to give all these ideas. Like, hey, I think what we can do together is X. Just go to your past and find a brand or find a deal or find a video that you can post the URL in, whether it's in your Drive or public, that they can see, hey, this is like the type of stuff I've done in the past for Red Bull. Take a look, or here's something that I think I would do during the day that would crush because I do this all the time with my audience and my audience loves it. For example, here's like the metrics that came from this past video. Give the brand a reason to want to buy into your audience, and then give the brand an idea to latch onto. But it's not an idea like you've already done the work. So show them a video that you feel maybe you can kind of take a similar idea. That's what I would say is probably the biggest reason from the pitch as to why you didn't get selected. Now, maybe there's some stuff on the back end, engagement rate, maybe there's some stuff in terms of audience, whatever it may be. That might not have been a fit, and maybe the rates too. And I didn't want to go to your rates because that's personal and I don't want to touch that stuff right now. But that's an idea. So that's kind of like how I would think about the pitch, so that you don't have to make it new all the time, but focus on the audience and focus on giving them a visual of what it would look like from past work. Does that make sense? And if there's other questions on it specifically, let me know, because I'm more than happy to keep going.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So do we need to have an introduction about ourselves? Because it's funny reading this, because I actually always skip that part because I feel like they probably know something about me because they would have seen it through the platform already. So I kind of just don't even do an introduction. I just go right into what the creative would be. But is that something you'd recommend, or am I doing it wrong?
No, I think, again, like you bring up a good point of they're seeing your platform. Maybe I can show you guys what it looks like, just so you have an idea. Let me see if I can bring that up. But in the meantime, it's, Sarah, I think to your point, like they get to see your name, they get to see your engagement rate, that your audience, they get to see your bio, if it's on IG or if it's on TikTok. So they have like a decent, and then they get to see some content as well. So that they have a decent idea of who you are before. So what I would say to this, because both points are good of introducing yourself, but also maybe just getting straight to it, is if there's a point you really want to hammer home of like something that you're passionate about or something that you do that's more mission driven, cool. But do you have to? I wouldn't say so. Do you have to talk about why it would relate to your audience and kind of what that creative would look like? 100%. So I think it's a good question. And I don't think, so the answer being, I don't think you have to, but if you are going to do so, make it quick, punchy, or highlight the thing that you want to make sure they know. Okay, I'm guessing, I think Courtney jumped off, makes sense. Oh, no, you're still here, for sure. Okay, Jenkill said, and again, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. How would you go about pricing services so that you are competitive, but you also aren't undercharging, especially when it comes to things like usage and exclusivity? Yeah, it's always a big question. How can I approach this? Actually, let me try an opposite approach this time. Jenkill, can you tell me how you think about it? Or like what you consider or what goes through your mind when you start thinking about pricing? You don't have to go into so much detail. Kind of like give me an idea of what it looks like. And the reason I ask, oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Well, I usually look at things like the usage terms, also what content is being asked of me, so what the deliverables are. Also, if I would need to do any like pre-promotional work. Also looking at like I said, the usage terms, how long would they be wanting the content for? Also, are they going to be asking me to any exclusivity as well? So like the terms for that, if it's like 1 year or 6 months, things of that nature. So I try and do like packages as well, where
cool.
There might be like 1 video or reel plus 3 images and a story post, things like that. But it usually just gets really tricky when it comes to the exclusivity, the usage, and then also if they're asking like for me to, for them to own like the content rights and things like that.
Got you. Okay, so again, like tons there. Really good question. Tons there. I would say this. Like, I think cool. See you, Courtney. So you talked about like how do you price services so that you're competitive but also aren't undercharging? I think the best way to apply it, and this is from conversations I've had with a couple creators that are good friends over the past couple of weeks, that like it's changed my perspective. It's really easy for all of us, and there's companies that do this, and maybe we'll talk about this, to say, hey, if you have X number of followers and X engagement rate, you can charge X, and then if you're doing this, you can charge Y, and maybe you should charge this. It's so hard to come to a standard because everyone does things differently. And for example, Jenkill, like you might have a podcast on the side, and so you have a really deep connection with your audience because of what you do outside of social that then reflects on social, compared to the person that doesn't do a podcast and doesn't have that same parasocial connection. And so even if you have 30,000 followers, like your 30,000 actually might be worth 180,000 followers because of how deep you are. So it's so hard to go to standard, and I actually wouldn't think about stuff from standards because it's going to put you into a rabbit hole and you're going to get tied up and you're trying to figure it all out. I'd go 2 things. 1, I would ask yourself at this point in time, what is enough for you? Like if you're going to work on X campaign, like what is, and you need a video, and they're asking for a video, and they're asking for 6 months usage of digital rights, and they're saying a month of exclusivity. In your eyes, like what is enough? And I'd start your base price of the asset. Then whenever price usage comes in, this is the rule I use, but it can be different unless you have so much value to your name, image, and likeness. It's usually like, let's call it 10% of the cost, 10 to 15% of the cost of the asset per month is kind of how I see it in terms of licensing and using it in different, allowing the brand to use it in different places. So I would use that maybe as a bit of a guide. What I would also say is when you think like exclusivity is always the most expensive, because essentially what they're saying is you can't work with anyone else. So like we're restricting your income amongst other companies that are in your space that relate to your content so that we can only be the person posting about it. That's where it gets super expensive. I don't have a good way of identifying for you right now, to be open. Like how to go about actually pricing exclusivity, but exclusivity should be very expensive. It should be very expensive. To go back before I keep going on this competitive side, like how do you make sure you're competitive but not undercutting? Again, what is enough for you? Not how do you maximize your rate? Because if you're trying to maximize your rate, the truth is you're giving yourself the hardest chance to win a good relationship in the future, because then you really have to perform. Unless, and this is one thing, unless people want to work with you purely because of your style. Like if you have a brand and it's a way you speak or a way you review food or a way that you edit, and people are like, oh, we know it's a Jankel Jennings photo or a video. Like we know it's you by just the brand. That's different, because they're working with you purely because of your brand. They're not working with you because of your reach and your content creation abilities. And so think about what is enough. And when you can think about what is enough, that leads to talk to people in and around your space, like your industry at your level, and try to have open conversation to say, like, what do you charge? And then kind of get a gauge and see what they've successfully got partnerships from and what they haven't. And use that as a gauge to start seeing relative to your mark where you think you're valued at. Is there like a massive gap, or is it kind of enough? And if what you're charging you feel happy with, and you feel you're living with, and you're excited and you love creating content and such, I'd actually be I'd be cool with that. And then at the end of the day, maybe you start building a better relationship, because maybe you're undercutting yourself a little bit, but you're giving you the brand more value. It's giving you the opportunity to stand out, but you're still making, again, that most important point, you are making the money that you feel is enough for you. Because at the end of the day, content creation is a job, fine, but there is passion behind it. And you don't want to get to the point where you feel like you need to do this purely out of income and you're just trying to grab at everything. So what is the enough that you need? And the way that you can think about this is you can go backwards. What is the number I want to start at? It's a bigger exercise. Say I want 150,000 a year. Cool. What are all my income streams related to brand deals? How many brand deals do I want a month? Oh, it's 2K. Or I want 2 per month, and I want to get to 8 grand a month. Okay, right now you're pricing yourself at $1,000 because of your followership, etc. Cool. Now you're just slowly working up to that point where you can get to 8K a month. And once you can get to 8K a month, maybe for you, again, that's enough. And now you just really enjoy the process without having to go through this mental battle. I'm going to stop there because it is the hardest topic to answer, because there's so many nuances and there isn't really industry standard. Let's see, Vincent, having seen the quantity of campaigns come through the platform, how common is brands pricing creators by CPM? i.e. CPM is what I've heard is average. It's a good question. When it comes to CPMs, or like for people that don't know, CPM is like cost per mil. Mil means 1,000. And so this is like a traditional advertising gauge of 1,000. Let's say back in the day when there was websites and blogs, like cost per 1,000 viewers coming to your page, or the cost per 1,000 people watching your video is where CPM, cost per mil meaning 1,000. That's what Vincent means for anyone that doesn't know. So there's CPM, there's CPE, cost per engagement, and then right now with TikTok and short form, there's CPV, cost per view. Brands do it, Vincent, for sure. Like they want to take a look at what is your viewership relative to how much are you charging. And if it is wildly out of their range, then they'll turn it down. Like, is there a standard? There probably is a range, but it depends. This is where, again, it depends on the industry. Like if you're in personal finance, your CPM is going to be so much higher than that if you're doing food reviews or doing makeup and beauty, just because of the price point and the way they see it is like the value of the person on the other side looking at that ad or looking at that video, and then how much is that price point that they're buying for. A bank, you're essentially giving them thousands of dollars a year by depositing. And so if I'm a personal finance creator being like, hey, go to TD, go to RBC, go to Citibank, go to JP Morgan, I'm pushing so much money into their business that like they're willing to pay a lot more. So to answer your question, yes, they do. What I have been seeing is a lot more brands now focusing on that CPV, which I guess is cost per mil, but just said in a different way on short form for videos. And again, it kind of depends on the industry. But what I can do, I don't want to keep just like talking on this without giving you guys data. What I can do is I'm happy to you can give me like a category, and I can slowly start trying to find some data internally as to like what have the accepted rates been per maybe like 1 or 2 campaigns. Now it's not so much data, but it's a little bit to give you an idea of like what your CPV, for example, could be on your short form video. But yeah, Vincent, they a lot do, and it's just like easy for them to understand is probably the best way to end it off. Thank you for asking the question. Okay, here, I don't know, Louisa, are you here? No, Louisa's not here, but Louisa asked how to reach more brands. Is it smart to tag brands in videos to get their attention? We have 15 minutes left. I can go through that stuff. Like we can talk going gifted to paid if you want, like gifted to paid deals, not to gifted to hashtag paid. But are there either one questions that have popped up that you want answered? And again, it doesn't have to be the hashtag paid. It could be just creator in general. It could be mental health. It could be content strategy. Or are there ideas that you want to work through? Like, is it an idea related to an upcoming campaign? Is it an idea related to shifting your content strategy? If those two pop up in your mind right now, feel free to throw some stuff in the chat and we can work through it. If not, I can go to the questions of like how to get more eyeballs from brands or how to go from gifted to paid. I'll wait a couple seconds to see if anyone throws some stuff in. Cool. Thanks, Ava. Okay, so any chance you might be able to pull up CPV data for short form health and wellness videos? Yeah, Cam, I'll do that next week. Candidly, like I've got a bunch of stuff this afternoon before we break for the weekend, but next week I'll put it on my to-dos and I'll try grab some data to make it a little easier for you. Social is very draining. It is. Any tips on engagement strategies? When you talk about engagement strategies, are you talking about to get people to engage with your content more? Are you talking about just ways to build more of a parasocial relationship with the people on the other side? What can you clarify engagement strategies?
Sure. So I do have like I'm pretty good at like asking questions to get people to engage and commenting back with questions, things like that. But I just find it to be very draining trying to stay on for an hour or so every day and engage with other accounts across social. So just trying to find, I guess, the best strategy in order to make sure you're keeping up with your engagement or your reach on social.
Got you. Yeah, no, totally fair. So I'll give you two perspectives from two friends of mine that have talked about this in the past couple of months. The first thing is trying to just focus, like being hyper-focused on the people that you already have. I think it's so easy to start thinking like, how do I get more? How do I find more ways to get more and more and more? But the truth is, if you have 30,000 people following you, as an example, like that's still 30,000 people following you. And if you can build deeper relationships with them, that is really going to translate into good dollars. Like, for example, Sarah, we talked about this last week. Sarah's really focused on a niche, like really, really focused on a niche, and doesn't have, like, compared to like major influencers, doesn't have a huge following, but is so hyper focused. The audience knows the value. She has such a good relationship with her audience that she's making a really, really good income and having a lot of fun with it. And so don't think that you always need more. Some people, maybe that's a goal to get more and respect and keep going on that, but try one, double down on what you have. So when you try to double down on what you have, two things. One, engaging with the people that are already commenting and being active in your chat. Like start with the people that have intention and then slowly move to other people that maybe aren't showing that same intention or that same activity. And just make sure that you keep engaging with them. Now, I don't know your type of content. I don't know if you're more educational or entertainment, but if there is some type of educational component or very specific component to your content, if you're like, I am just health related to hockey athletes or hiking, for example, you can be very, very specific with those people in the comments and then use that to spur new content of the idea of if someone asks a question or asks you or says something related to that content, you can take that as inspiration and use them and call them out as inspiration on that next video or on that next post to re-engage who they are and re-engage the community, and also almost like siphon those ideas. So doubling down on who you have and who's already there, I think is super important. The other thing related to that, in terms of doubling down on who you already have, if you want higher engagement, there definitely has to show, like, you have to show a bunch of value related to wanting to engage with those people than just posting videos. And so a good way to start is slowly throwing some polls on IG stories, or asking questions in the chat, or in the comment section, for example. It might not start easily. Like, it might not start at the beginning. Maybe you get like 4 responses and you're like, this sucks. Like, people don't follow me. Like, I don't have engagement. But at the end of the day, the people that follow you, they follow you with an expectation, and that's the hope. And so if you build the expectation that, hey, like, I'm going to be here again, I want to showcase the best water bottles for my future hikes. And so let me ask some polls related. What do you look for in a water bottle? Cool. And then, like, you start talking about that stuff. And then the audience starts relying on you for that parasocial relationship. So first thing, asking yourself to double down on the people you have. Are you entertainment, or are you educational? I.e., like, what is the value that someone is getting by just following you? It could be a laugh. It could be more info. It could be inspiration, whatever it may be. And then using that to decide, cool, then how do you engage? If it's just a laugh, maybe you ask, like, hey, like, what's something you're dealing with right now that I can make a skit about? That'll make it your day easier. Again, small thing. If it's education, what are you looking to learn? Like, what can I break down? What can I educate you on? What can I inform you on? If it's something different, it's something different. So double down on who you have and identify what is that value, and use that to go to engagement strategies. I think the other thing I'll say quickly is that when you talk about engagement strategies, it's very easy for us to think like we want something out of the audience, like we want the audience to do X, but maybe they're telling you something different. So it's always the balance of what is it that fulfills you, and then what is it that's connecting with someone else? Like, why are you doing what you're doing? So if you can think about, again, this is kind of philosophical, but it's helped a lot of the creators that I know that have spoken to me about this. Not that I've helped, but that have talked to me about this, their process in this. It's, what is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? Take that into, cool, like, what is the content that fills you up so you don't feel drained when you're posting the content, when you're talking about it, when you're engaging with people on other channels, or your own channel, or in your own comment section? And then, great, what is the stuff that people are related to that passion that you can keep reinforcing and keep doubling down? Because then it's like, they call it redemptive content versus exploitative. Exploitative is, I'm just going to try to get you to watch my video for 30 seconds, and I hope you like it. But now, like, I'm taking 30 seconds out of your day because I want you to watch my video. Versus redemptive is, think of it as a professor. I'm here because I enjoy teaching you something, giving you something, and by doing so, it's redeeming me. It's filling me up with a lot of passion and fulfillment. And so I can do that for days, on and on and on. It's why you see professors stick around for 40, 70 years, because they just love teaching and they love the development, and people get value out of that. And then they just keep going in that cycle. I hope that was helpful. I'll let you, like, cool, I'm glad. And again, if there's other follow-up questions, feel free to either drop me a note or drop a question here. And then Vincent, what are good strategies to reply after a campaign doesn't perform to the brand? It's a good question. Campaign doesn't perform to a brand. What are some good strategies? The one that comes to mind is, and I'd say this for any campaign really, but it's going to help with ones that you feel haven't performed, or they feel haven't performed. It's the idea of this. It's just like anything. Like, think of these brand to creator relationships as just a friend. Like, if you're trying to, Vincent, if me and you are hanging out, going to grab coffee once, and then I hope that, like, you're still my friend after that, it's not as good of a opportunity as if, like, we just keep hanging out, or at least, like, I keep offering you to come to coffee, for example. And so in this case, it's the same way. It's continuing to follow up with the brand. But think of it like this. I would ask, if you have the opportunity, I'd ask the brand, cool, like, what is it that you didn't like about the video? Or what is it that you think didn't do well about the video? And if they hopefully will come back to you with an answer. And then you take that answer. And then in the future, once you have a video that maybe does perform well, or you have a new idea, just keep updating them. It's like, hey guys, I know like that didn't perform the last time, or like this was the issue the last time, but I just want to show you like here's a couple new strategies I'm using, or here's a couple pieces of content that have performed really well that I'm excited about. It's a new series. It's a new way I'm thinking about things. This did this did this. Like, just keeping them updated with who you are and how well you're doing and what people are attaching themselves to. Because at the end of the day, I think the best line the creator told me was, people want to help people with momentum. And so if they see, all right, it didn't do so well, but you can show them, hey guys, like I still really enjoy your brand. I still think it's a valuable partnership because my audience likes X. Here's the types of content that have been doing well. Here's what I've been putting out. At least you stay top of mind for them, because at the end of the day, we're all going to have campaigns that we don't do well on. And at least they chose you. At least they know your name. And now it's just like keeping them updated so that over time, their mentality of you doesn't become, oh, here's Vincent, the guy that like charged us 10K and had a horrible campaign, a horrible idea. It's, oh, here's someone that kind of cares. Here's someone that wants to keep us in the loop. Here's someone that's offering opportunity to work with them because they see a great integration. So I would never apologize unless you did something wrong. But if you were just you, they approved the concept, you put out the content and it just didn't perform, I'd never be like, hey, I'm so sorry that the content didn't perform. I want you. No, at the end of the day, they're working with you because you've shown your stats, they've seen your capabilities and your content, and that's what they want. So never apologize for it. But it's like, how can you, again, get them on your good side? By showing them momentum, by showing them new ideas. And maybe they don't respond. And maybe it takes like 5 to 10 emails before they're like, hey, sorry, we've seen this, or hey, love this. Yeah, maybe we can think about working. So again, pulling it to the positive side, never apologizing unless you truly did something wrong, and not performing. Your video not performing is not you doing something wrong. And the third thing is try get them on the phone if you can. Like, have a conversation. Because if they have that human to human, you'll be able to gain more insight from them, and they can hopefully just see you as a human. Because a lot of the time it's all through email and a platform, and they see it more as just a creative. They don't see it as the human driving it, is what I would say. Yeah, man. yeah, definitely. Phone calls, video chats, a bunch. I'm trying to get our team to get our brand, or the clients that we work with, the brands we work with, to do a lot more pre-campaign calls, just so they know who they're working with, and it gives the creators on the other side the opportunity to showcase more about their personality and to connect on that one-to-one, because then it ends up making the content so much better, and the relationship in the campaign so much better. It is tough because everyone's only got 24 hours in the day, but I've seen people make calls. I've definitely made calls. Good question though. I like that question. All right, 2:57, 3 minutes, or 2:57 where I am on Eastern time. We got 3 minutes left. Happy to give you guys 3 minutes back. But if there are other questions or thoughts or ideas that you want to work through, I will be here for another 3 minutes. But if not, I hope this was helpful. Again, this is something that we've started. This is our 4th week doing it. We want to just be here as a resource for you guys, as a way to give more clarity into #paid, help with different strategies and just opportunities, and then be able to work through some ideas. Like, if you want to, again, similar to what happened here, if you have an idea or you want to talk about certain things, just come through. And again, you can go camera off, you can just listen, you can add some questions, you can jump camera on if you want, whatever you want. But again, we're just here for you guys. What does this look like going forward? Don't really know. I started this like super low lift, being like, all right, let's see what happens. Let's see what questions come through. And it's been a lot of fun so far. So every Friday from 2 p.m. until 3 p.m. Eastern, or 11 a.m. To 12 p.m. Pacific time, or wherever you are, we're going to continue it on Luma, and I'll keep adding sessions to the Luma, like where you guys signed up. So you'll keep getting invites. And if you don't want to come back, don't come back. If you want to keep coming back, drop in, drop out. But again, the goal is here for you guys. So if there's stuff that you think that I could have done better from like covering perspective, or how this can work, let me know. And then hopefully what we can do in the future too is I can start to bring in some of my friends in the industry who, not so much creators, or maybe some bigger creators, but also people that work in the industry who have different perspectives on different elements, to get like an expert opinion. Seems like no questions are coming in. So guys, have an awesome day. Thank you for coming through. Thank you for listening. Thank you for asking some questions, and enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you soon. Of course, guys. Catch you soon.